Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to another BME Crew live workshop. I'm really excited for what we're going to cover today because we're going to be talking about the strategic planning system that I used to make me a seven-figure entrepreneur. I had tried to break seven figures for many years and didn't get there until I unlocked this system. So I'm really excited to be sharing that. As you're jumping on, seeing this live, or even if you end up catching the replay, just drop a comment down below. Let us know that you're here. I know we got a few folks here already. And we're excited to dive into this, but definitely always remember we hold these workshops to serve you, to help you move forward in your business. And we know that even though marketing and technology, a lot of services that we help our clients with, those are things that are super important. But on top of that, if you don't have the right type of planning structure, if you're not investing in leadership, if you're not really looking at all the components around the health and success of your business, then you're going to have holes and problems. And so we definitely talk about a lot of marketing strategy, a lot of sales stuff. We talk about technology, but we also use this time to share things like we're sharing today, which is more about a leadership and management approach that can really help you be successful. So glad to see you, Tom and Ashley. Good to have you here. And so as we dive into this, I've asked Nathan to talk about something that I think is really important before we think about strategic planning, moving on to the next things. It's really important to understand our failures and own them, and really, take time to review and learn from what we have gone through. As entrepreneurs, it's really easy for us to want to, just keep pushing forward, keep trying new things, and that's part of who we are. But we can move forward a lot more effectively when we take time to think about what went well, what didn't go well, where did I fail, what can I do to learn, grow, and improve. And so I really wanted to open up today with some important kind of principles and lessons around that. And so we will dive in here. And good to see you, Rich. Always good to have you around. But I will go ahead and turn it over to you, Nathan, and I'll let you dive in.
All right, so I'll go ahead and pull up my screen here, get everything ready to go. So good afternoon, everybody. Some of you may have seen or heard me before, but for those of you who haven't, my name is Nathan Gibson, and I am a marketing strategist and sales representative here at BME. Gabe has given me the awesome opportunity to speak to you guys today, and I'm really super excited about today's topic. So with that, let's go ahead and dive right in. So today we are going to be embracing the F word. And no, it's not the one that comes to mind at first. It is a word we hear often, usually in a negative context. However, I am here to change that today. We're going to be discussing how the F word is our secret to defining and dominating your 2024 goals. So you might be asking yourself, what F word is he talking about? Well, as you can see here, it is failure. We're going to be discussing owning your failures and how doing so can help you tremendously in not just your business, but your personal life as well. I will be guiding you through all of the topics you see here, such as the stigma of failure, why it's okay to fail, and failure as it relates to business. So first of all, let's talk about why we're often scared of failing, especially in business. Society tends to see failure as a bad thing, making us worry about what others might think. This fear of not doing well in business can really hold us back, making it harder to take risks and try new things. But it's important to remember that everyone faces setbacks. They're a normal part of learning and growing. It's crucial to recognize that failure is not a reflection of your worth or capabilities. Rather, it's an inevitable part of the journey towards success. The fear of failure in business especially acts like a roadblock, which prevents us from exploring new opportunities and taking risks. Society often paints failure with a negative brush, making us worry about what others might think or say if our endeavors don't go quite as planned. This fear can really cause us to hesitate to step outside of our comfort zones, which hinders innovation and creativity in both our personal lives and careers. However, it's really essential to shift our perspective on this. Instead of seeing failure as a dead end, we should view it as a necessary stepping stone on the path to success. Each setback is a chance to learn, adapt, and ultimately improve. Now, One of the most important things I can say in this topic today is it's okay to fail. Once again, it is okay to fail. We all have times in life where we come short or don't get the results we want. I guarantee you it's happened to every single person on earth. Failure is not a sign of weakness or incompetence, but a natural part of the learning process. When we try new things, take risks, and step outside of our comfort zones, we will inevitably encounter obstacles. I'm sure many of you have been here before. These setbacks, though they may be disheartening in the moment, offer invaluable lessons and insights that pave our way towards growth. It's through our failures that we refine our strategies, build resilience, and develop the adaptability needed for long-term success. Remember, some of the most successful individuals and businesses have faced setbacks and failures along the way, including us. Think of failure as a normal part of trying new things and getting better. I would not be in the position that I am fortunate to be in today without failing along the way and making many mistakes. The important thing is I have tried really hard to learn from them. Imagine it like learning to ride a bike, as I'm sure many of you have been in that situation before. We'll probably fall a few times before we get it right. Similarly, in our work or business ventures, we might face setbacks, but each one teaches us something very important. When we face challenges, we become stronger and more capable of handling what comes next. Change my screen here. All right. So far, we have talked about why people sometimes see failure as a bad thing and why it's totally fine to make some mistakes. Now, let's think a bit about these ideas and how they relate to your own experiences. Take a moment to consider situations where you felt worried about failing and see if embracing the lessons from those moments could have helped you grow. This quick reflection helps us connect the concepts to our own lives and open the door to more positive ways of learning about challenges and learning. So again, think of a time where you failed at something and then ask yourself, what did you learn from that experience? Please feel free to take some time to share this in the chat. We will take about 5 minutes to have people share their thoughts on this and then have some time to discuss them. But in the meantime, I will ask the man himself, Gabe Arnold, tell me a time where you failed at something and what did you take away from that experience?
Yeah, thank you, Nathan. And just like you said, put in the comments or in the chat there, just share one of the times you failed, because it's important to be transparent and open about that. If we're not, we can't learn from it. We can't grow from it. If we think or pretend it didn't happen, that's a great way to not learn and grow. But yeah, I have more failures than I could ever keep track of. But as I think about some bigger ones, one that comes to mind for me, Nathan, is a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I guess, I started a resume writing business. And the reason I thought that was a good idea was because we had a writing service back then. We wrote a lot of content like we still do today. We write a lot of SEO content, sales pages, emails, all those types of things, social for our clients. And I thought, well, I've got good writers on staff. We have marketing content down, and I want to expand and try something new. So I launched a resume writing service, brought in one kind of dedicated team member to work with me on it. And we spent about 6 months trying to make it work. And then I shut it down after losing, I don't know, $25,000, $30,000 on it. And which is no small amount of money to fail with. But I realized in going through that I wasn't offering a product market fit. And so I was offering a little bit more of a higher end resume writing service, a higher end, more premium service to people that did not have jobs. Because the vast majority of people that need a resume don't have a job, or in a job they don't like. They're not, getting paid well. And for me, it was the wrong fit. So I ended up walking away from that, realizing, one, this was a couple of years before we really had dialed in our own market research process. So taking time to really do market research and see what people's interests are, what their goals and desires are, what they can afford, what they're willing to invest in. And for me, that ended up being a very expensive mistake, but a very good failure to learn from because it helped me improve how I look at market research. It also helped me just improve on how I do due diligence as it relates to launching new ideas. So that was mine. And we've got a couple other examples here that I appreciate folks sharing. Michelle said, I sent marketing items to an event and didn't add a way for them to follow up or a next step. I think we've all done that too, Michelle.
Yep.
So that's a good painful lesson learned, right? And here's one from our buddy Rich. He says, long story short, I should have gotten in writing and didn't. Won't be doing that again, no matter how much I think I can trust someone's word. Yeah. When it comes to putting things in writing, I would agree, Rich, because just because I assume that I'm on the same page with you, Rich, doesn't mean we're actually on the same page. And if we have a little bit more of an objective tool, then we can really look at that and make sure we're in agreement, and we're not in the position where they're assuming something, I'm assuming something, and also time passes. Like how we remember a conversation from yesterday is very different than how we remember a conversation in 6 months or a year or longer than that. So yeah, those are definitely things that all of us has faced. And I appreciate you guys sharing that, because like Nathan's kind of shared, if we take time to reflect on these things, we have the opportunity to learn. So back to you, Nathan.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, everybody, for sharing that. I know that sometimes it can be very difficult to share our failures, but one of the main things about my topic today is that it's okay to fail, and sharing that can help you learn and grow from those experiences. So I really want to take a second and appreciate everybody for sharing that. Thank you, Gabe, and everyone else. So next, let's discuss the learning opportunities involved with failure, which kind of ties into what we were talking about. Our failures are essentially golden opportunities for learning, and they are a major factor in professional and personal growth. Instead of viewing these setbacks as roadblocks, consider them as stepping stones towards success. I'll say that a lot in this, but it's very important, and it's something I live by, is viewing those setbacks as stepping stones rather than setbacks. Each stumble, challenge, or unexpected turn presents a chance to gain valuable insights and to refine our approaches. It's through these experiences that we uncover what works, what doesn't, and how we can improve. Just like Gabe was talking about, he had to go through that experience to understand that it wasn't something that worked for him. Embracing failures with a mindset focused on learning transforms them from just mere disappointments into indispensable lessons that can be used for decades and decades. So think about it like figuring out a puzzle, right? Each piece that doesn't exactly fit teaches us how to find the right ones that do fit. So when things don't go so well, see it as a chance to learn and grow. In essence, failure becomes a powerful teacher, guiding us on a continuous journey of improvement and innovation. So now let's dive into what we call the growth mindset. In both life and business, it's important to have a growth mindset, which means always being open to learning and adapting. A growth mindset is about seeing challenges as opportunities to grow, and this perspective can significantly impact the success of a business. Encouraging employees to seek new ideas, learn from their mistakes, and constantly seek improvement leads to a more resilient and innovative work environment. I myself am very fortunate and blessed to have a leader that encourages me to learn from my mistakes and helps me overcome them. In a business with this growth mindset, setbacks are not viewed as failures, but as essential steps towards improvement. So by having a growth mindset in the workplace, what we do is we create a flexible and innovative environment where everyone is ready to learn and adapt. Having a growth mindset in the business world is like having a continuous learning mode switched on. It's about welcoming new ideas and being open to learning from each and every experience, especially when things don't go as planned. It's similar to when we learn something new. We might not get it perfect the first time, but with each attempt, we get better, and that's what's important. So it's not just about individual growth, but creating a workplace that thrives on continuous improvement and embraces the ever-changing nature of the business landscape, which I'm sure all of you are familiar with. So let's next talk about some strategies for overcoming failure. Overcoming failure involves adopting a set of effective strategies that can transform setbacks into stepping stones for success. First and foremost, changing your perspective is key and crucial. View failures not as setbacks, but as opportunities for growth. It's super important. Learning from mistakes is a crucial aspect of this process because each misstep carries valuable lessons that can guide your future decisions. Setting realistic expectations is another vital strategy as it allows for a more measured response to challenges, reducing the fear of failure, which is super important as well. Additionally, seeking feedback from others provides valuable insights and alternative viewpoints, which enriches our understanding of what went wrong and how to improve. We practice this at BME every single day because we have what we like to call the 5-minute rule, which the 5-minute rule prompts us to reach out to the team if we are struggling or stuck on something for about 5 minutes. What this does is it allows us to collaborate with the team and get different viewpoints and help on what we're working on and not stay stuck for long. Use the people around you. They're there to help you. Each mistake you make is a chance to figure out what went wrong and how to do better the next time, turning setbacks into steps forward. It's like planning a trip, knowing there's going to be some bumps along the way. Being ready for challenges makes them easier to handle. So, by looking at failure in a positive way, learning from mistakes, keeping your expectations realistic, and getting feedback, you create a strong approach to challenges. It's not about avoiding failure at all. It's about using it as a tool to get better and succeed in the future. So now let's connect the topics that I've spoken about thus far to how they affect business owners, as I'm sure quite a lot of you are. For business owners, facing failure is an absolutely normal part of the journey and actually helps in the long run. Some of you may already know this. Failing from time to time is okay and important because it teaches us lessons, such as how to make better decisions and plan smarter for the future. It's a practice that helps business owners better understand their market and become stronger in their field. The trick to overcoming these hiccups is, as I've said, seeing each setback as a chance to learn and get better. If you want to increase your success rate, double your failure rate. Thomas Watson Sr. This quote is important because it teaches us that the more we fail, the more opportunities we get to succeed. So failing is necessary because it's like a reality check, highlighting areas that need improvement and allowing business owners to pivot and adapt, which I'm sure all of you know is super important. It's about asking for advice, adjusting your strategies, and always trying to improve. Always. Think of it like refining a recipe when you're cooking. The first try is probably not going to be perfect, but each iteration brings improvements using different ingredients, tweaking this, tweaking that. We all have been there, and that is what creates the perfect dish. So this continuous process of learning from failures is what propels business owners forward. By turning failures into lessons, business owners can not only handle the challenges much, much better, but also set up their business for long-term success. So let's go ahead and summarize what we have discussed today. When it comes to owning failures, remember 3 very important things. First, again, guys, it's okay to fail. It really is. It's a part of life. Don't view it as a bad thing. It really is a good thing. Second, see failures as chances to learn and get better, always trying to improve yourself. I'm sure many of you as business owners do know that that is super important for propelling the business forward. And finally, always remember that valuable lessons come from your failures. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. Instead, use them as stepping stones towards your growth. Embracing these ideas will help you build resilience, learn from the setbacks, and keep moving towards success. So, all right, last thing I'd like to discuss before passing it over to Gabe is this really handy business goals tracker. This tracker is a super useful tool for business owners to keep track of their goals and to keep themselves accountable. Using a business goals tracker is all about keeping things organized, which is super important to me, to achieve your goals. The tracker sorts goals into 3 categories, which are ahead, on track, and behind, making it easy to see how things are going. It also has a section for action plans and comments to outline the steps needed for your progress. The tracker highlights the top 3 urgent issues that need immediate action and links them to your monthly business goals. To stay ahead, potential issues are rated as low, medium, or high priority, with a focus on addressing high and medium rated items. This straightforward tool is a great help for planning, checking performance, and solving problems. Gabe will be posting a link in the chat so you all can have access to this handy dandy tool. I love trackers and things like that because I really like being organized, and being able to set all my goals and everything just right in front of me not only helps me stay organized, but also stay accountable for the goals that I'd like to attain. So it's a very useful tool. So now I want to say thank you, but I will be passing it over to Gabe so that he can tie together what I've spoken about today and teach you his strategic planning system that made him a 7-figure entrepreneur, and how to steal it. That's the key point. So take it away, Gabe.
Awesome. Thanks, Nathan. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's really, like Nathan mentioned, I put a link up there in the comments and on the video view here. It's bmesuccess.com/bizgoals. That will take you to that tracker. And I'm going to share another one too, intentionally, because there's two different tools to get to the same goal, in my experience. So I'm going to put another one up here that I'll change out so you can take a look at this one as well. So we have that. But before I get too far into kind of walking through my structure, the process that we use, I want to start out and just ask the folks here that are live and in the chat, so you can drop a comment or put it into the chat here. If you look back at last year, did you set any specific goals and did you achieve them? So did you set a goal or two and did you achieve them? And I guess I'm thinking kind of more like from the long-term view of like setting a goal for the year. Did you set a few goals for the year and did you achieve those? Or did you set those goals and not achieve them? Go ahead and put that in the comments and let me know what your experience was, and as I kind of share what mine is. Because in years past, I used to take the end of the year, last couple of weeks of the year, and think through all the things I would have wanted to accomplish, and I would list out 10, 12, 15, different goals that I thought was, going to be what I wanted to hit. And that's kind of how I ended my year and started my year. And I started there from that kind of planning standpoint, which is a good starting point. But there's actually there was some challenges for me as it relates to setting that many targets and that many goals. So I'm curious, like I said, put those in the comments. Again, if you're here live, you can drop that in. If you end up watching the replay, that's great as well. But let me know, did you set goals for 2023 and did you achieve them is the question to look at here. Because ultimately, if we don't set any targets or goals for ourselves, then we may not know if we're growing or if we're reaching, ultimately reaching the target that we want to reach. And so the initial part is always like taking that time to reflect and thinking about, what we achieved. So awesome. So we got somebody here on LinkedIn that said they set, Joni, hopefully I'm saying that right. You said that you set 3 goals and achieved 2. That's excellent. I think you're going to benefit a lot from this, Joni, because it sounds like you're using a similar approach to what I'm going to walk through here. Rich said he set some goals, didn't hit them, but got close. So anybody else, you can put in there what your experience has been. And the reason I bring this up is because being, being ambitious, being an entrepreneur, having a lot of things that we want to achieve, it's really easy to overdo it and think, oh, I have all the time in the world and I'm going to knock out all these things and I'm going to be really crazy aggressive. And sometimes when I see people say things like, I'm going to double my revenue next year, or I'm going to lose 60 pounds, or I'm going to run 3 marathons, or they set something that's really aggressive, that can be actually detrimental in moving forward, in my experience. And so all I'm going to show you is what's worked well for me and kind of explain the process there. Michelle said she set a goal to double sales. Here, I'll throw this up a little bit longer. She said he set a goal to double sales from what I can tell, that happened. Expenses doubled too. And you set a goal for $1,000 a month at your shop, and that didn't happen. Okay. So it sounds like you achieved some of that and not all of it, which is pretty normal actually in my experience. So there's nothing wrong with that. But the first thing that I want to encourage everybody to do in this first part of the process is just choose one important goal that would impact everything else. And I'll show you kind of, I had the kind of link up there to what the doc I'm going to share with you here. I'm going to pull this up and just show you something really simple that I have used for quite a few years now that makes goal setting and moving forward not overly complicated. So I do put on this, primary targets for the year up to 3, but I would say for the last, okay, cool. Michelle said she hit that per week. Got it. So I would say for the last 5 years, maybe more, but at least 5 years, I have only chosen one goal. And I just put that up here of whatever that one goal is. So the primary goal will go here. For me, by setting one goal, I make a lot of progress and there's a lot of growth that happens in the company. And so for me last year, my goal was to make our sales process autonomous, meaning that I wasn't involved in front to back, from marketing to lead generation to writing proposals, presenting, closing, selling, doing all the prospecting. I made it a goal to make our sales department autonomous and not have me involved in it. And the reason for that is we're a 17-year-old company now, and I have carried sales for many years. And I'm sure there's other entrepreneurs, business owners out there that are the same, where you are the one handling all the sales. And there's always a season for that where it's important to do that. But the reason that I chose to do that is because I knew that that was the next, that was the next scaling kind of point for us. I knew that my time was getting capped out. I only had a certain amount of time available, and I wasn't going to be able to do more sales without working a lot more. And so I really looked at my primary goal last year of like handing off sales. So I was not involved full time. So that was my goal. And so when I set that, I said, okay, now how am I going to go about achieving that? And we'll break down like very simply here the process that I use to achieve those types of things. But it's important to realize that by setting one primary target, and up to 3 is what I tell a lot of our clients and a lot of the business coaching clients I've had over the year, up to 3, that can make sense too. But in setting those one, ideally, or maybe 2 or 3 goals, the thing that has helped me the most there is really taking time off to think about it. So I typically take anywhere from a week to 2 weeks off end of the year. So sometimes that's been possible. Early on in my business, it wasn't possible. So instead of saying, oh, I'm going to clock out and not work at all, I would do things like I'm going to take a half day on a Saturday, a couple weekends in a row, go to a coffee shop or change my environment, change where I'm at, and really take time to reflect on what has gone well over the last year, what hasn't gone well, what am I seeing, like what's the vision, like what direction ultimately do I feel like I need to go in order to keep growing. And I really sit with the question of what should be my primary target, my primary focus in the coming year. Because the more that we spread ourselves out and we try to target too many things at once, the more we will get distracted or let ourselves off the hook when it comes to planning ahead and saying, okay, how can I achieve this? So for me, it was one thing. So once you set that for yourself, and this is I will throw this note up here again. So we have that so you can download the stock. Once you have that set, then what we really look at is saying, okay, how do we achieve forward movement on that goal in the first quarter? And so I've listed 5 or 6 things here. I realized as I was doing this with a client the other day that I like 6 even better than 5. So I'll update my document here. But as I look at Q1 for the year, then I can say, okay, if I break down 6 incremental steps that I can take in moving forward, then I basically just need to take one small step every 2 weeks so that I can move forward on that target. And so when we think about how to break things down, we want to say, here's my big target for the year. Now, how can I take essentially, 25, 30 steps over the course of the year to achieve that with consistency, with results, and with learning? As I'm continuing to talk through this, if there's anybody that's live here in chat that would like to come on and work through some of your goals, just go ahead and put a comment down there in chat there. You can say goals. You can just drop the word goals for me. And that way I will give you a link and you're welcome to come on. And I will talk you through your actual goals and targets. I always like to do this live. So if there's anybody that would like help with that, we will go through at least part of your strategic planning today. And one thing that Kayla shared, Kayla's one of the marketing strategists on our team here as well. I really like what she said here. She said, milestones also help so much with knowing what all is going into a target, right? It helps me see if a simple target is actually achievable in the time frame I've set for myself. And I agree with that. It's really important to take that big goal and break it down in such a way that you're able to think through and say, like, okay, what are the actual steps here? What is it going to take to make that happen? Awesome. So Michelle, I see you want to come on, so thank you. I am going to drop you a link in Facebook Messenger so you can jump on, and then I'll bring you on stage here. But as I was talking about here, again, I really take time to reflect and think through carefully what is one big thing that if I solve that or I achieve that goal, it's going to impact the rest of my life in the business. For me, that was sales last year, because I said if I can, focus on really handing off sales, then I will be able to free up time to work on the business more instead of being in the business. And we hear that a lot, but it's not always the first thing that we should do when we're starting a business. But there does come a season where we really want to pay attention and be able to, hand off things that allow us to work on the business as we grow a team. So that was my big goal. And then out of that, I'll break down here in a second kind of the step-by-step that I was taking and that we ended up doing. And then I appreciate Michelle's going to come on with us too here. Like I said, Michelle, that should be in Facebook Messenger for you. And we're going to talk through a real life business example here. So as we think about the big target, so for me, it was handing off sales. The first thing I had to do was say, okay, I realized that I've attempted to do this myself before, but it's not worked and I haven't been effective in that. And so I said, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is interview and hire, a sales coach, somebody that can help me build out the processes that I'm already using that maybe I don't recognize. So that was one of the first things that came up. Another part was I realized that I was lumping together a lot of roles into one personally. So I was doing marketing strategy, like we have Nathan and Kayla here for now. I was doing some client success. I was doing pricing. I was doing all those things. So in doing this, I realized, well, I need, marketing strategy to take over. So I ended up hiring that. And, I was then able to see, okay, I need to build a pricing process, which I was able to initiate. And then Kayla on our team did a great job of taking that over and really making it hers. And then there was multiple other steps that we took. And I started to say, okay, if this is my big goal, then what are all the milestones, like Kayla said, that are going to get us there? And that's why I'm a huge fan of setting one goal, because ultimately it's going to be the case where if you set one meaningful, important goal that's going to move your company forward, then what you'll find is that you have to do a bunch of small projects under that goal that will uncover other opportunities for growth and learning as well. So then as I set my goal for the year, then I plan the next quarter. I say, okay, here's the things I'm going to work on. And I only plan one quarter at a time, because there's really no realistic way for us to, know what we're going to be doing in Q4 when we're in Q1. And so ultimately we like to just plan out a quarter at a time that's going to keep moving us towards that big target. So, all right, Michelle, you should be able to jump back in, and then you'll probably just want to close the other tab that you're viewing it from, but go ahead and come on, and I will bring you on now, and we'll dive in. So that's essentially the process. One meaningful goal that's going to move you forward, and then how do you break that down into targets? And we're going to do this live with one of our BME Crew clients and one of my good friends here, Michelle. So she'll be on in a moment here, and we'll walk through this. So, hey, Michelle.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing well, thanks.
Is it not echoing? Are you better now?
Better now. Yeah, I did realize I needed to close out of the other one, which makes complete sense.
Yep. Not a problem. Awesome. So tell me about what you're thinking for this year and what your goals are, and then I'll talk you through kind of how I'd break this down in a plan here. Oop. There
Okay.
you are. I think you're back, Michelle. Did you hear me?
No, I'm sorry, but I am back now. I
okay.
lost you
No
for
problem.
a minute. I had to get on a stronger signal.
Hey, no problem. I said, why don't we talk through what your big, 1 or 2 or maybe 3 goals are for the year, and then I'll break that down for you and show you how I'd work that through.
Sure. Well, I will start with one of the challenges I have is so many things happening at once, which I'm sure all entrepreneurs are used to. And so I have a new physical location coming up. And then I also have my online store, and I do a lot more in my physical location. And so setting goals for moving and getting established there. Like I always want to build my Shopify and build my store and show up in person, is at the same time. And I guess the one goal. Damn.
You're good. I can still hear Michelle.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm like, my internet normally it's strong. I don't know if my husband's on a call too downstairs, but
it's okay. I can hear you. Okay. You're good.
Okay, great. So yeah, just trying to figure out like which direction to go. Do I clean up my Shopify first so that as people learn about me in person, they can shop online? Do I start with focusing on the new store that's coming up? Just trying to figure out like where to start and what to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. So if one of the ways that I would look at this is I would ask myself, what is working well already? So if you had to only, this is not the case, but pretend that you only were able to choose working on your brick and mortar store or your online store, just for the thought exercise, what would you choose as it relates to driving the most revenue, the most successful? Like what would be your first choice?
Definitely the in-person.
Okay. So I always ask that question, and I ask myself that question because I'm not great about self-reflection when it comes to that stuff. But I have friends that ask me that same question too, because as entrepreneurs, it's super easy to get bored with what's working and try to find something new. I've only done that like 150 times in the last 10 years. And it doesn't make you any money, so don't do it that way. But so if we know that the highest leverage you have right now is your in-person, then I would keep investing in that, because it will be easier to invest in like the secondary income stream or the other leverage point of the online store if you're focused on what's driving revenue and working. So that's how I clarify. As I say, the phrase that I always use, I don't know if the best one, I always say, like, gun to my head, what would I choose? Because I want to, like, if it was life or death, I would have to choose one thing that I know I could bet on. And so it sounds like it's your in-person sales for you there.
Yes.
So now, and I know we talked a little bit on the side before, but you have the opportunity for a new location that you're going to be moving into with higher foot traffic and like much better partnership, like a lot of good opportunities there.
Yes.
One way that I like to look at like starting to do some planning is ask myself, if my son came to me, you know, and he's 25 and he was in my position, then what steps would I give him? And I know you have kids too, Michelle, which is why I use that example. So if you were thinking about your son or daughter, or whoever you can imagine is in business and running the same business as you, they come to you and say, I have a new, you know, space I can move into. I'm not sure what to do next. I know you've run a store for years, Mom. You know, what would you recommend? What do you think are the top 3 to 5, or maybe it's 6 milestones in your mind of what needs to happen for you to move to that new space?
Gotcha. Oh yeah, that's great. Thank you.
So in doing that, what's the first couple that come to mind? We don't have to drill it all way down because you definitely want to take time to think through this, but what are the first couple things that come to mind that you would give somebody else advice if they were in the same position as you?
Well, it's amazing because even just thinking of that, like this morning, I'm looking up infrared saunas, I'm looking up cold plunge rooms, I'm like looking up building codes, like, you know, and just thinking of that stuff, I'm like, wait, so, you know, I would recommend they use what they had for the first, you know, at least first month and just get a feel for the space and, you know, get their marketing materials ready for letting their current clients know where they're going to be setting up and that they're going to be moving, which Nathan and Ashley and I talked about that just a little while ago. And you know, to start those steps of preparing my current clients, and also have a system, not really a system, but a way to collect emails from the people who do come into the new space and get them on my email list.
Yeah, that's excellent. So if you take time to list all those down, I would do that like in a Google Doc or a spreadsheet or an electronic form, for the reason that I could then easily like copy and paste and resort everything based on priority. So the first thing I would do is brain dump all the ideas of like, here's all the things that I probably need to do. Then I would filter those by asking myself, what of these action items are closest to the money? So, you know, maybe you put up a sign at the new location, like coming soon. You of course can email your list and let them know that you're going to be moving soon. Once you have a date, like you can do some promotion there so that you're going to pull your existing foot traffic and people that are with you now, and you're going to start to give a heads up to the people that already have foot traffic in the new retail location, because that's close to the money. So those are important things to me. Then I would, so you have like marketing as one of your sub steps. So like if your big goal, the way I'm seeing your goal, the way you're saying it to me is like the goal is to move and increase revenue this year. Like if you just focused on that, and you could set a target of like 50% income increase, or maybe you do set a goal of doubling your income. And earlier I said that sometimes if people say, oh, I'm going to double my income, but they don't have a plan behind it. Or if you're doing, you know, $1 million a year and you say you want to double, you know, revenue, there is a massive back end and infrastructure that has to happen there. Whereas sometimes, like for me, when I was more of a solopreneur and had 1 or 2 people working with me, doubling income was not that hard. But taking time to think through the steps of what's going to be involved, I would say I would make my goal statement for the year. I want to move to a better location. It's based on what you shared with me earlier. It feels like a much better location. I want to move to a better location, and I want to achieve X more revenue or hit this revenue target. So maybe you did, you know, for people listening, maybe you did 100,000 last year and you want to do 130, or maybe you did 60 last year and you want to get to 80, or maybe you are in a position where like you did 75,000 last year and you like, I think we can really push and do 150 this year. Sometimes those doubling steps are a lot easier under 7 figures. And then there's times at 7 figures we can double too, but there's more complexity the bigger the business gets. But if your goal is to move to your better location and increase revenue to X or by X, then the sub steps to me are thinking about like, planning the move and having a good process for that and getting the right people lined up to help you to do that. So it's really quick and efficient. Marketing, letting people know that come to your existing location and to the farmer's market that I know you go to about the new location, and then letting all the foot traffic know at the new place, and keeping those marketing activities like really encapsulated and not making them too big, meaning like don't overdo something. Like like you have a great designer that you work with, Michelle. Get a simple banner that you can put up. Don't overthink it. Like you can put a QR code on there to your website, or like you can do some basic things, but simple is always the best way to scale. So we know like we need to do promotional marketing around the move. You need to get everything moved over there. I would assume you also want to think through like the flow and layout, because I know we've talked about like merchandising and retail space layout. And what are the other kind of major steps? Because even these like milestone steps will have subtasks and things like that, but are there any other major steps that come up for you that you're thinking through that would be helpful?
Major steps, I guess, would be, so I'm going to be the first like CBD company in this area. I'm going to be the first like health foods, almost like a miniature health food store. And so I'm really thinking the classes, like when they come in the door, be like, here are the classes for the next 30 days, and having an open house where all the clients are invited, their current clients, my old clients, they can mingle, they can learn about this holistic practitioner that I'm renting space from, because like it's literally just you walk into a glass door, you can go right and go into their offices, or you can go left and go into my space. So
nice.
It's a community, it's shared community.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah. So then, so I would probably break your steps on it. Like you have your pre-marketing, like your move marketing, and then you're going to have your educational marketing, and sitting down to plan out just like a monthly class that you hold there, and just throwing all those, headlines, topics into a document now will help you in the future when instead of doing it month to month, if you just plan a year of topics and like all the classes, then it'll be easy to put that up, and then you can set the same day and time, just like we do a weekly class now, these weekly workshops. Those types of things, when we put them into a cadence like that, hold us accountable and help us show up and not get stuck in creative block or whatever we have going on that all of us get, including me. So
yeah, that is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's really, that's kind of the gist of it, is set that big, like make a clear statement and goal for the year, and then just plan the next 90 days of how you're going to get closer to it. Okay. And then when you get to the end of this quarter, like a couple weeks from like middle of March, sit down and plan the next quarter. Like what are the steps that are going to take me closer to that goal or help me achieve more of that revenue or whatever it might be. The last thing that I'll say that will be helpful is some of my clients I know sit down and do this themselves. They'll just put like a monthly planning or weekly planning time, whatever cadence they follow, at least monthly, is good. They'll put that in their calendar, and they are very good about sitting down and just taking time to plan. For me, I'm not great at doing that independently. So when I want to do planning like that, I either have a team member hold me accountable or a mentor. Just like I know inside of BME Crew, you can use accountability calls for that, since you're part of our BME Crew service, but decide what process is going to work for you, and then put those in your calendar too, of like, I'm going to request an accountability call, or I'm going to meet with this person and show them what I've done. Like that's what accountability calls are for me anyway. And if we set that reoccurring process up and we keep bringing the same document to those meetings with ourselves or with whoever's helping us with accountability, then we can say, here is my goal for the year. Here's what I've done so far. And then you keep getting back on track, because life and business will always distract us and pull us off course. And it's things happen and it's totally normal. But the habit of consistent planning throughout the year is really ultimately what increases revenue and increases the leverage of things you're trying to invest in.
Yeah, that is, I had not even thought about using the accountability calls for that in that way. And that is perfect because I do know it. And I'm notorious for creating a document, putting information in it, and then I have no idea what I named it. I don't know where it went.
Yeah.
I can't find it again like until 3 months later, and I've already created another one. I'm like, oh, there it is.
I think we all do that sometimes.
So that would be awesome. That would be great.
Yeah. So what I just was talking to Michelle about, since she's a part of BME Crew, one of the services we offer here is our clients in BME Crew can just request a call for accountability, and then they meet with one of our strategists, our team members, and they'll go through, here's my goals. We give them support and strategy and help on, how they can achieve those goals. And then they're able to set another follow-up call in a couple of weeks or a month or whatever cadence is, right? And that's just a check-in on how are you progressing, where you need support, where you need help. And again, it's the habit of goal setting and planning that most people don't invest in, and then they don't achieve their goals. We all have the ability to hit our goals. We achieve the goals that are important to us because we do things on a daily basis that are important to us. We take care of our kids. We go grocery shopping. We pay our bills. At least most of us do, right? So we have these ingrained habits, but we're trying to achieve some new growth or a new achievement in the business. We need to make sure we engineer the process around it and accountability, and that's definitely the thing that will help the most. So hopefully that's helpful, Michelle, and I appreciate you jumping on with us. And of course, you can request anything through BME Crew that will support you. But I'm excited to see pictures of your new place and see how the growth goes.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you so much. Awesome. So we'll wrap up here in just a couple minutes. But I wanted to share this because I'll be honest, goal setting and planning can feel very boring and can feel like it's not that important. It's felt that way to me. But it's really important to create that cadence in the process to do it, because if you don't have a continual focus where you keep moving forward, you keep measuring what did we learn, what did we fail at, what did we achieve, and you keep coming back to it. Ultimately, if you don't use a process like that, you won't know where you're progressing, where you're growing, where you're failing, or where you're succeeding. And so that's something I really wanted to share early on in the year here. So as we wrap up, I just have a quick question for you, Nathan. I know you've seen how we operate this as a company, and because we set our target for the year, and then we plan each quarter, and different leaders on the team, own different targets. What kind of things have you noticed, like, about the process, as far as it relates to like how we do goal setting and what we do as a company? I'm curious your perspective, since you're a little newer here. You've been here about 6-7 months or something like that. So I always like to get fresh perspective from a newer team member.
Yeah. So the question is kind of my perspective on our goal setting and achieving those kind of things as a business, right?
Yep. Like, what have you noticed, like how we run that internally? I'm just curious your perspective.
I think that the way that you and the culture that's developed at our team runs it is transparency. And that's very important because we are a very candid and straightforward business. And so we like to be, upfront with our clients and our team members. So you share statistics and goals on a weekly basis with the team. So I'd say the big focus is transparency. I am very aware of where we're at as a business and where we want to be this year. You clearly define the overarching one goal and the steps and the quarters to get through that. Another thing to mention with that is our waterfall process of trickling down processes to achieve certain goals throughout the year and throughout the quarters. So the way that I've experienced it so far at BME is just a real heavy focus on transparency and communication. I've been a part of businesses that are very secretive with their information and everything like that. And that is just not you as a person, because from what I can understand as a person, you believe that we need to collaborate on these things as a team. You yourself are not going to achieve these goals. Us as the team are going to achieve the goals.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. That's a good point, Nathan, because that's a natural part of what we do, but I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was having breakfast with a friend a few days ago, and they do consulting they do some business consulting and similar things like I did. And they told me they were meeting with a new client. They walked in and this client had a whole whiteboard of everything written down of what they want to achieve, all their goals, like very specific things. And they're a regional company, like 3 or 4 states. And so my friend asked him, he's like, well, how often do all your managers see this? And he's like, well, we don't really talk about that. And I'm like, then he was like, well, how are they supposed to know how to achieve it? And so I'm glad you brought that up, because
There you go.
when you're growing your business, even if you just have a VA or an assistant or 1 or 2 people working with you, or honestly, even just a family member that shows up sometimes and helps you get some things done early on, all the way to when you have a larger team like us, where we've got about 30 folks on the team right now, and beyond. This still applies when you have any size team or anybody that's involved in the process. If you're not showing them the goals and the step-by-step, like Nathan just said, then they can't support you in doing it, and they will go their own direction because you're not giving them direction. You're not showing them the plan. But when you have goals from, here's the revenue goal, here's the next steps you want to take, here's all the things where the milestones we're going to do to get there, whatever the goal is, then they can support you in that, and we can all work towards the same direction. And so that's definitely another key part of this process as well. And so I know this, I'll just be super honest, this is not the sexiest topic in the world, and it's not what people promote and want to talk about a lot, but planning and using a process like this is absolutely critical if you want to scale and grow. If you don't put a planning system in place, there's many different ones. I've showed you a couple variations of things that I've learned from other people that we've modified and adjusted. If you put these things in place, you can scale and grow and hit your goals. If you think goal setting and planning, your execution is just going to happen automatically, then you will either accidentally be successful and have no idea how it happens and you won't be able to repeat it, but most likely you will have a lot of failures and a lot of setbacks because you don't have just a simple process that you run. And so just to recap it, set your big goal, or maybe 2 or 3 for the year, but I love when I see clients set one big target that's going to impact everything else. Then plan ahead for the quarter, break it down into, I like seeing like 6 major steps towards that. So you can work on them every 2 weeks. You can still run your business, run your life, have everything else going on, but you can make an incremental progress. And then towards the end of each quarter, a week or 2 out, do the same thing. Look at the big goal for the year, see what you achieve, see what some things are going to go well that you tried, some are going to be big failures you get to learn from, and then plan that next quarter. When you use that process, ultimately you're going to have consistent growth forward. You're going to have a lot of documented learning, which is really important as we want to create more profitable and more sophisticated businesses that achieve the goals we want, and that's what will move you forward. And last but not least, if you need help with accountability calls, strategic planning, when it comes to putting marketing out there that's going to be effective, we have a highly skilled and experienced team. And we, if you head over to bmecrew.com, like I've got up there on the comment screen there, you will be able to learn a little bit more about how we can serve and help you. We'd love to talk about how we can help you grow your business, because our team is designed to fill the gaps for you and really be there when you need that support. So appreciate everyone tuning in. Even if you end up catching the replay, that's awesome. You can go ahead and leave a comment with any questions, and we'll make sure to get back to you. But thanks everyone for tuning in today, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.